Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Failing for You. It is me, your host, Jordan Yates, and today I am joined by I don't know if you guys have heard of the junior board of directors, but somebody has to be in charge of these directors, and it is the master electrician and guardian himself, Hank Pruim. Hank, say hello to everybody.
Hello.
We
Nice to be on and join you.
Yes, we're so excited to have you here. But real quick, before we get started, let's hear a quick message from our sponsors.
Hi there, I'm David Turner from Process and Automation Specialists. In our world, process improvement isn't just a phrase, it's the key to unlocking efficiency in your operations. With over 20 years of hands-on experience in the heart of manufacturing plants, I've walked in your shoes, worked alongside teams like yours, and understand the ins and outs of your daily challenges. My journey from the plant floor to leading process solutions means I know exactly what it takes to elevate your operations. Interested in transforming your process efficiency with a partner who's been there? Let's connect on LinkedIn. Don't wait for the future of automation. Let's create it. Process and Automation Specialists, engineering efficiency together.
Go ahead, push our buttons. Actually, you don't have to physically push our buttons at all. Here at CAPTRON, we specialize in innovative capacitive sensor technologies, which means better ergonomics for your workplace. And unlike mechanical buttons that break or malfunction after repeated use, our sensors are rated for 100 million operations. Durability is the name of the game, and we're winning! And you can be too. Visit CAPTRON at Automate 2024 in Chicago, Illinois on May 6th through 9th at booth 2886 or visit captron.com. CAPTRON. Install once, replace never.
I'm sure you guys have seen lots of Hank on LinkedIn because that is where I see him and interact with him. If you haven't, then you need to connect with him because he's a pretty cool guy and has more experience in years than I have even lived. So he has, so much to talk about. And so today we're going to kind of get into his backstory, learn a little bit about his career, and hopefully take away some pieces of advice. So Hank, are you ready to open the book that is your career?
Yeah, let's do this.
Awesome.
Let's do
So
this.
you were saying you got started, I guess it's been about 40 years ago that you've been in this industry?
Yes, so this June will be my 40th anniversary that I started as an apprentice electrician.
Okay, so how did you get started doing that? Like what drove you to be an apprentice for an electrician?
So I grew up in the time when schools had some pretty amazing shop programs. So right from grade 7, like grade 7 and grade 8, we had a shop class, and we also had a home economics class. So when I was in grade 7 and 8, I learned to sew, I learned to cook and bake and all sorts of stuff like that. That was kind of a neat life skill.
Hmm.
Um, but there was also shop class. So it was a general, they had wood shop, they had a bit of welding, some sheet metal stuff. Then into my high school days, the high school I went to was more of a technical trades type, the blue collar kind of school.
Hmm.
So in grade 9 in that school, when you took industrial arts, you got auto shop, you got machine shop, wood shop, welding, you did drafting, electricity, electronics. They had a printing shop that we learned how to run, like printing presses and stuff like that. And so through grade 9, we did a little bit of everything. And the intent was just to get you a little flavor of what's available, of what they taught. And then when you moved to grade 10, then you narrowed that down to 3 choices.
Hmm.
And so in grade 9, then I did electrical. I'm trying to remember what the other 2 were. I think one was drafting.
The electrical is
I
so impactful. That's like all you can recall.
That's right. That's right. So, and then grade 11 and 12, you focused in on a study zone. And for me, that was electricity and electronics. Now, the 2 of them went together. So you took half and half of each. So it was really a neat background for electrical to learn the electronics part of it. Learn, like I know you do some stuff with soldering and that sort
Hmm.
of thing. So we learned how to do that, how to make our own printed circuit boards. we bought Heathkit.
Wow.
Some people might remember the name Heathkit. So each semester we got to choose a Heathkit project that we made, and in electronics. And excuse me. And then on the electrical side, we learned like house wiring. We learned how to bend conduit. We learned motor controls, motor wiring, and that was right through to grade 12. So that was the background there. And actually, at one point, oddly enough, I'd actually looked at going into the military.
Oh, wow.
I had talked to them and expressed an interest because it's the same in the U.S. and Canada. You go in the military, you do your 3 years of basic, and then you can focus in on a trade of some sort. So I was kind of looking at that as well. Nearing the end of grade 12, we had the opportunity to join up with a company for 2 weeks of internship, co-op type of thing. And so usually it's got to line up with your school hours. So that would be like from 9 till 3:30 or something. But the company specifically asked for someone that could start at 6:30 and work till 5:30 because the job was about an hour away from Stratford where I live.
Yeah.
And so the teacher talked to me and said, you don't really have to do this if you don't want. And so I was like, it sounds like a neat opportunity. Let's go for it. And so that's my first introduction to actual electrical field wiring. So this company, they specialized in water and wastewater treatment systems. So they built water plants, sewage plants, pump stations across the province of Ontario. So this one was about an hour away from where we live. So the journeyman that I worked with, he picked me up at 6:30 in the morning, and we went to this job site. And he was a fantastic guy to work with. Like he didn't just say, well, you're the co-op student, stand back there and watch me.
Yeah.
He was like, okay, well, this is how you thread a pipe. So now I need all these pipes threaded. So, I spent a day threading pipes, and he taught me how to bend. And this is all in a 2-week co-op course. The one thing we did is they had a 6x6 square wire duct through tunnelways underneath the water plants. So if anybody ever worked in that, they know there's tunnels and pipeways underground. And so we had to run, I believe it was 220 wires in this wiring duct.
Wow.
So I spent 2 days setting up wires on a stand, numbering both ends, pulling them out, 800 feet long, and then going back and taping them together so we could put them in the wireway. And it was a really neat experience to work with them for 2 weeks like that. And so I thought, that for me, that was like, I could really do this for a career. At that point, I'm 17 years old, still, trying to figure life out. So about a week later, I get a call from the journeyman that I worked with, and he said, listen, we got some work in town on the weekend. We're wondering if you'd be interested in coming in. He goes, this isn't co-op, this one's for pay.
Ooh.
So if you're interested, you're more than welcome. So I went and worked with them for a Saturday. And the owner of the company came in at lunchtime, brought in pizza for all the guys, and he sat down and chatted with me for a little bit. And then he took off. And so the next week, I think it was like a Monday or Tuesday, the Bruce was his name. He called me up and said, hey, I got a paycheck for you. Want me to drop it off? I said, yeah, that'd be great. So he stopped by about 5:30 on his way home, handed me the check, and he said, listen, I was talking to Warren, the owner, and he said, if you're interested in an apprenticeship, we're interested in hiring you. So I literally got done school on a Tuesday in June, and on Wednesday, I loaded up and started my apprenticeship.
Wow. Did your parents ever say like, hey, take a break, enjoy yourself, be a kid? Or were they like excited that you were excited about work?
They were very excited. So my parents, the backstory to my parents is they both immigrated from Holland.
Oh, wow.
In the mid-50s. So they were very hardworking, and they always encouraged us to do well. I mean, we always had jobs around the house that we had to do. And my dad was a machinist, so he was very hands-on. And so he was very encouraging, and for them, they didn't push us to go, you have to go to college, or you have to go to university, or you have to do this. They said, you do what, you do something, but you do what fits you. So, the one thing my dad always said is, I don't expect you to be the best there is, but I expect you to be the best you can be.
Yeah.
So,
That's really nice to have that kind of like realistic expectation from a parent rather than thinking like you need to do these like very set steps of like you graduate, you go to college, and then you figure it out. Like the fact that you already knew what you liked, and it seems like you were pretty lucky with your high school of like, getting a taste of that so young and getting to learn such hard skills at a young age probably helps like, cement it in your brain a little bit better. So do you ever feel like working alongside the people early in your career that like they were shocked by how much you knew for how young you were?
yeah, there was some of that. A lot of it was just good work ethic as well.
Mm-hmm.
I think that more came into play in trade school. So in Ontario, when you do an apprenticeship, it's about 5 years,
Okay.
and there's 3 terms of trade school in there. So you got your beginner, intermediate, and advanced. So, and then each one of them, when we go into trade school, we were talking about stuff that a couple of us had already done in high school, because
Mm-hmm.
we all went to the same high school,
Yeah.
and like the teachers were just blown away. They're like, "You did this in high school?" So, but we had a fantastic electrical teacher too. He was a bit crusty,
Mm-hmm.
but but if you tried, he would try really hard to make sure you learned and knew what you needed to know as well. So it was that was definitely a big boost there.
Yeah, no, that's really nice to have. There's also this discussion around like people deciding between, hey, do I want to go to like a trade school for something I'm passionate about? Do I want to pursue like a 4-year university or maybe like a 2-year one? What would you say like your experience was at trade school to where would you say you advocate for that, or do you feel like it's really person to person, like, or would you say you're pretty hardcore on like, listen, trade school worked awesome for me, like I think more people should be thinking about it? Like what's your thoughts on that topic?
So when I got into the trade, there wasn't the pre-apprenticeship courses that they have now.
Mm-hmm.
It was a case of where you got the apprenticeship, and then part of your apprenticeship was these 3 8-week terms of school.
Interesting.
So it wasn't that I went to college first. Now I had friends that
Yeah.
did that. Like I had a couple friends that went through for electrical technologist and that sort of thing. And after 2 or 3 years of college, they typically ended up getting an apprenticeship anyways and doing, they got some hours off their apprenticeship for their schooling,
Mm-hmm.
but they ended up doing the apprenticeship anyways. So, and I think it's up to the individual. Like
Yeah.
if you like the engineering part of it, then by all means go do your university. I have a friend right now. His son is graduating high school this spring, and so he had actually gone to one of the local universities for a day to look at the engineering program,
Mm-hmm.
and he's like, no, that's too intense. I don't think I can do that. So I had the
Smart kid. No,
opportunity. Yeah. Well, yeah, to realize that at that point before you waste, a year or two in university and then
God,
realize that
seriously.
I blew all this money and I'm not going to finish it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there's a couple of really good community colleges near here that have excellent technical programs. Conestoga is the one that I recommended to him. They have a mechanical engineering technicians program, and
Interesting.
it's all about they do robotics, they do PLC programming, they do design. It's an excellent course that they do. I believe it's a 3-year co-op course. So
Okay.
you'll do 6 months of school, 6 months in a work term. And most, from what I understand, speaking with one of the instructors there, that most of the people that take that course have job offers before they're done.
That's
So
really nice.
they walk right out of college to a job.
Yeah, no,
So
it's nice because they come out with like actual skills. Whereas like I feel like sometimes, I mean, I did an engineering degree and I feel like I still need to go do trade school because I feel like I don't know a whole lot from my engineering degree because it's so much
yeah,
theory. And then you just kind of like learn whatever job you go to from there and then you learn it on the job. But my little sister's 18 and she's trying to figure out what she wants to do. And she's done a little bit of community college. But this morning I was actually texting her and sending her like links to all these trade schools. And I was like, I'll pay for it if you just like pick one of these and do something and like try to figure out what you like, because you could do a 3-month course or a 6-month course and like actually get some skills rather than like, taking years of basics and then figuring out, oh, do I think I like this? And it's nice when you're just not sure and it's not as long as a commitment. And there's so many options out there for like education, but I think it's cool that they do have that and that it is kind of a big deal right now in our industry, pushing for more of the like, just go get some technical experience for a couple years at a trade school and then, join us in the industry when you're ready. But I'm curious, before we hopped on, you said you've had a lot of near-death experiences in your job. Now, we might have been exciting people to join this industry, but now we might be scaring them. So I'm curious about these stories. What has happened, Hank? What are you doing? What wires are you crossing?
So one of the biggest ones was when I was a second-term apprentice. So we did a lot of out-of-town jobs.
Mm-hmm.
So we would leave very early on a Monday morning. And we would work hard. We would work 12, 13-hour days, but we would come home on Thursdays. So we would have Fridays off. So we would do 40, 48 hours in 4 days.
Wow.
And then come back home. This particular job we were doing is in a town called Kirkland Lake, Ontario. Now, Kirkland Lake is about an 8-hour drive north of here.
Mm-hmm.
So it was cold. It was minus 40 for about a month and a half.
Wow.
Up there. And so you just dress for it and, away you go. But we had just, the week before, we had just powered up the motor control center. So it was, I think it was about an 8 or 10 section motor control center. It was live and the voltage here in Canada is 600 volts.
Okay.
So I know in the US, the industrial is 480.
480, yeah.
Yeah. So here it's 575, 600. So we were getting ready to pull wires for one of the motors. So my journeyman said, okay, well, you fish the conduit. And these conduits come up underneath the MCC.
Mm-hmm.
So he said, you fish the conduit, I'll go grab the fish tape when it comes out. So I said, okay, well, are you sure? And he goes, yeah, no problem. So I said, okay. So I gave him a couple minutes and started pushing. Now, it's a metal fish tape. Like, I don't know if people know what I'm talking about with a fish tape, but it's spring metal fish tape. It's about an 1/8 inch wide. So I'm shoving it through the conduit. And about 3 minutes into this, suddenly all the lights flash in the plant, in the sewage plant we're building.
Uh-huh.
And I hear this noise. It sounds like 100 arc welders going off.
Oh my God.
And I immediately dropped the fish tape. Like, I had no idea what one lights. And all I hear is my journeyman yelling, pull it back, pull it back. And then he comes flying in the room. He's like, are you okay? Tell me you're okay. I said, yeah, I'm fine. What happened? I said, what happened? He goes, you just blew the MCC up. So I get off of where I'm sitting. Like, I'm sitting over top of a tank on some planks, fishing this in. So I come out of there and we walk in. And so these panels are 8 feet high and about 20 inches deep. And the whole end of the panel, I don't know. So there's 3 bus bars in it. And that whole end of the panel is missing. Like, there's a hole burnt. And so what happened is the fish tape went up the back of the MCC, flexed over, and shorted out 2 of the bus bars. And we had a major arc flash that blew out. It melted back about 1.5 feet of the copper bus bars. Oh my
gosh.
And just moments before, there was a guy doing drywall at the end of the MCC. He had just gone down and walked around to get a drink of water when it happened. And so then we're standing there, like, somewhat in shock a bit. And I look up and I realize the lights are still on. The power is still on.
Huh.
So the journeyman jumps on the main breaker. And so through the course of the day, we take a bunch of sections off so we can liven it back up, get the lights and heat back on again. It turns out that the manufacturer of the MCC put the wrong main breaker in. They basically put a switch in, not a breaker.
Oh my God.
It should have, if that happened, it should have just tripped.
Yeah.
But it didn't. It caused a major arc flash.
Wow.
So yeah, that was a scary situation. That was actually somewhere I was looking for it. I couldn't find it. I have a piece of copper. I call it a copper splat. So
Mm-hmm.
it's maybe about this big, and it was a piece of the molten copper that hit the floor like a water drop.
Oh my gosh.
I got it sitting in a box somewhere. I got to find that. It's in my trophy. I got to put it back in my trophy cabinet.
So when that happened and you have like this near death experience and you're a young man, are you thinking, "Whoa, like that was cool. I have a lot of adrenaline," or are you thinking, "Oh my gosh, like what am I doing? I don't want to die." Like what are your thoughts when that happens?
When it initially happened, it actually didn't hit me because it was on a Thursday, so we were
Yeah.
going home that day, and it never really hit me until we were partway home. And then I looked over at Journeyman and said, "I could have died," and he goes, "No." And about 5 minutes later, he looks over and he goes, "Yeah, you could have,"
Yeah.
you know. But so yeah, it kind of hit me there. I mean, it didn't scare me off the trade, but
Mm-hmm.
what it did do is it gave me a healthy respect that I really didn't have for electricity at that point.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I tangled with 600 volts one other time, and I stuck my elbow into it. So I hit my elbow into 600 volts. The fortunate part there is it just hit two terminals. It's a
Mm-hmm.
bit of a long story how it all happened, but
Yeah.
it just hit two terminals and I wasn't grounded. But so that's when I had my own company. So we were doing a service call. I had my apprentice with me, and we figured out what the problem was, and we started heading home. About halfway home, so it was about half hour or so to home, I said, "You know what, I'm not feeling that well. I think maybe I should go get checked out."
Mm-hmm.
And so I dropped him off at home, and I called my wife and I told her what happened. I said, "I'm going to the hospital," and she goes, "Paul's driving you, right?" I said, "No, I dropped him off at home." She goes,
Yeah.
"What? What are you doing driving?" So I got to the hospital, and I don't know if emergency rooms are the same there as here, but it's just packed. Like
Yeah.
there's
Oh yeah.
there's 100 people sitting there. So I walk up, and she says, like, what can I do for you? I said, "Well, I took a shock and I'm not feeling that good." She goes, "Well, how big?" I said, 600 volts. And her eyes got 600 volts. She goes, "Sit there, don't move."
Yeah.
I'm like, "Yes, ma'am." And I had 2 burn marks on my elbow from it still at that point. And so she said, "If you feel any different at all, tell us."
Mm-hmm.
And about 3 minutes later, she comes back out and says, "Come on in." So I get up to walk in, and there's some guy sitting there. He says, "I've been sitting here 5 hours. How did you get in so fast?" I turned around, looked at him, did one of these. But
Oh my gosh.
so they ended up putting me on a heart monitor for a couple hours to make sure
Yeah.
everything's all right. But I mean, everything was okay. There's no lasting effect other than I got some discoloration on my skin because a lot of the capillary vessels right under the skin actually
Yeah.
burst with it. So it almost looks like I got bruising through here. And that was 20 years ago
It's
that
like an
happened.
electricity tattoo.
Yeah, exactly. Very unique. Not
Yeah.
recommended to get one, but
Very dangerous, but looks really cool.
so, but yeah, I mean, it's been a good 40 years. I've done a lot. You know, I've traveled the world. I've been to Vietnam. I've been to South America. I've been to the Caribbean for work. I've run a lot of big jobs. I ran my own company for 8 years, and that was a blast. I enjoyed it. But 2007 hit, and we had work on the books. In
Mm-hmm.
2007, it all got canceled. So suddenly I'm sitting there. I have no work at all, nothing, and nothing looks like it's coming up. So at that point, I ended up shutting down the business. Still, still lost money, but never really went bankrupt at that point.
Yeah.
I just shut it down. So, and I ended up getting a job with a local auto manufacturer here in the area. And I worked maintenance there for about 6 years, which, was good for the time, but
Mm-hmm.
I didn't like it. I didn't enjoy it. It was a 3-shift rotation, midnights, afternoons, days on a 1-week rotation. And about 6 years into it, I got talking with a local contractor here. And oddly enough, he apprenticed under me quite a few years before.
Wow. Yeah.
And he goes, "You're not looking for a job, are you?" I said, "As a matter of fact." So he hired me out of there and worked with him for a few years. And the company I'm with now, Air Systems, I started doing their automation in 1994.
Wow.
And so that's when I worked for a contractor, and then they followed me into my own business. And then when I shut my business down, I couldn't do their work anymore. When I came back with this guy, I went back to them, and they got me back in there doing their programming and panel design. And after about 2.5 years, they said, "Why don't you just come work for us full time? You
Like,
can do
Hank,
everything
stop
in
messing
house."
around. Just come back. Like, you keep leaving us and coming back. Like, just,
Exactly.
we need you, Hank.
So that was 8.5 years ago, and it's been a great move. Like, it's a good company. It's, I do a fair bit of travel. I do most of their commissioning. So like these are the guys that I went to Vietnam with. These are the guys that I basically have been coast to coast in the U.S., coast to coast in Canada with them, and I enjoy what I do. It's fun. I get to program. I don't have to climb ladders. I don't have to pull wires. I don't have to fish conduits and blow MCCs.
Gosh, right. Do you ever
So
feel like you miss owning your own business, or do you prefer working for somebody else?
there's occasions I do, but I don't miss that stress. It's pretty nice to get done your day and go home. Now
Mm-hmm.
I get calls, I get after hours calls fairly regular. I get online with customers and help them out. But I mean, the flip side of that is the guy I work for is really good. He's very generous with, if I'm going out of town, I take a day off ahead of time. It's, to spend with the girls, and
Mm-hmm.
same when I come back home. So, he's really good that way. So I enjoy that part of it.
Yeah, no, it's definitely a different kind of stress, like owning your own business versus like working for somebody else. And I get asked all the time, like, oh, do you think you want to like own your own business, do that full time, or do you think you want to like do, that on the side and work for somebody else? And I don't know. I'll say I think owning your own business is incredibly stressful. And if somebody's doing it and they're not stressed out, please share the tips with us, because I'm definitely curious how you can own your own business without being stressed all the time. But
Yeah,
I
exactly.
you touched on it, the girls, aka the junior board of directors. In our last few minutes here, can you kind of tell us who are the junior board of directors, and like what are they got going on?
So we have, I say we have 3 plus 2 kids. So we have 3 adult kids that the youngest one is 29. He turns 30 in a month. And then we have the girls who are 9 and 10. The girls are our nieces.
Mm-hmm.
So, and we have custody of them. So the junior board of directors came into being during COVID when I was working out here in my porch. And so the girls would just come out and inspect what I was doing. And so I started taking pictures, and then jokingly referred to them as the junior board of directors have
Yeah.
made an appearance. And so that kind of stuck. And then at that time, with some of the podcasts and stuff that were going on, like Megan was interviewing some people on Mavens in manufacturing,
Mm-hmm.
and the automation ladies were getting their start, and the girls would come in and watch them, and
Yeah.
just, they thought it was really cool that, girls can do this, girls can
Yeah.
weld, and so then, and I refer to, Megan's referred to it as well, the time she had Barbie the welder on. And the girls were
Yeah.
just fascinated by her and the stuff she did. And we watched some YouTube videos. And so then they're like, well, we want to weld. We want to try welding. So I have a welder out in the garage. So we got it out, got some face masks for them and stuff. And they tried welding. And they have that. My oldest son is a carpenter.
Mm-hmm.
So they've built things with him. He's helped them build things because they see what Dave's doing, and they want to try some of what Dave's doing. And we have a small farm, so there's stuff here they get to try. They've done a little bit of programming stuff with me, not a lot. This Christmas they got themselves a 3D printer.
Ooh, that's exciting.
So they're on Tinkercad designing stuff and then printing it out. So that's and I said Tinkercad is good because it's a good introduction to like CAD drawings and online drawings and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So, and they're really enjoying that. So, but yeah, that's the girls. They follow me around and they love what I'm doing. They wanted me to say hi, actually.
Oh, well.
So they're away. They said, make sure you say hi from us. So hi
Oh.
from the junior board of directors.
We're honored. We're all honored. And everybody, if you, like I said, if you don't know who they are, then you got to connect with Hank on LinkedIn and you'll see lots of them there. I think it's really cute. I loved learning stuff like that when I was a kid. And I was really excited when my stepdad came into my life when I was about, I think, like 12-ish, because he was a machinist and a welder. So I, at a young age, got to start doing all that stuff and working with him. And
Neat.
I just remember how much it impacted me, and where I am now, I think, is majorly because of that, because I got to, get my hands dirty at a young age. And I think I just can't wait to watch them grow up and see everything they accomplished because of it. I think it's going to be really fun.
Yeah. Yeah, it is fun to see them. And it's fun because they're my oldest daughter, she sews for a living. So she works for a truck tarp company.
Mm-hmm.
And she's actually a floor supervisor of the sewing shop now. So that's kind of her trade.
Yeah.
And then my oldest son became a carpenter, and he's lead carpenter for one of the main home builders in town here in Woodstock. So he enjoys that. And then our younger son is, he's got his master's and bachelor and master's degree. And he actually just got a job in Ottawa, so he's going to serve as an associate pastor at a church.
Wow, that's so cool.
Because that's where he felt he needed to go.
Yeah.
So it's neat to see, and the whole backstory to all of that is we actually homeschooled the three oldest ones all the way through high school.
Really?
Yeah, all the way through to the end of high school. So we homeschooled them to grade 8. At grade 8, we said, "So what do you want to do? Do you want to go to high school? Or do you want to keep being homeschooled?" And they all three chose to keep being homeschooled. So, and we started that with the girls, and then we kind of backed off of that this year. So they're going to school this year.
Oh, very exciting.
So, yeah, they love it. So they're enjoying that.
That's awesome. Well, Hank, it's been super fun having you on today and hearing about your stories. I'm going to be extra cautious around all wires now so I don't get blown up. But luckily, we don't have 600 volts here in America, so I should be okay. But thank you so much for sharing your stories. And I guess if anybody wants to connect with you, I will put your LinkedIn in the description of this episode. But is there anything else that you want to leave the people with today before we sign off?
No, just enjoy what you do. Find what you like doing and do it. And it's, sure, some people say find what you love doing and it's not a job anywhere. Well, that works some days. Some days it's still a job.
Amen.
So, and if you for me, I travel, find something fun to do. Don't sit in the hotel room. I've gone to concerts, I've gone to sporting events. I find local pubs with live music. And, I just make sure I have a good time when I'm out of town as well, not just, sit and be sad in a hotel room watching TV. So, and encourage.
Hank, I feel attacked. That's what I do. I just DoorDash food and I watch Netflix by myself. I feel like this is a message from God. Be like, go out and do something when you travel. I'm like, when I travel, I'm like, I'm not leaving my hotel. I will stick my head out my door, grab my food, and go back in.
I go to this plant in Iowa so much now, and this is kind of funny that I got to know the owner of the Mexican restaurant, and so when I come into town, I have to text him so that he's sure that he's there when I come in. Well, now it's to the point where some of the locals gave me their number. And when you're in town, you have to text us so we can come and see you.
That is so fun. I don't think I'll ever be social enough to do that, but at least I have something to aspire towards. So
yeah. And encourage the youth. Encourage them to find what they like and do it. Don't be forced into what somebody else thinks you need to do, but look at trades, look at STEM. Look at university and engineering. If that's where you need to go, then do it. Just follow your calling.
That's really good advice, guys. Well, thank you so much for listening to another episode. I hope you had fun. I feel like this 30 minutes flew by because the stories were so good. So I hope you enjoyed them as much as I did. But as always, I'm your host, Jordan Yates. In the meantime, I'll be failing for you. See you next time.